Assalamu alaikum. So this is the lab 7 that is about the interrupts of a microcontroller. So let me tell you what interrupts actually are. Interrupt is an activity or basically a function that is called at specific ports whenever there is a logic change, a low, a high, or a rising or a falling edge. So it basically is a function that interrupts your main function and does something that is written into its interrupt service routine. So what an interrupt service routine is, that it is again a function in which you can set something which will be called, or some action that will be activated whenever there is a desired logic change at the specific interrupt pins. So in this code, the first thing that you have to do is you have to include the avr interrupt.h header file, and once the header file is included, what you have to do is you have to declare the interrupt pins as pull up or pull up enabled pins. In this microcontroller, the ATmega 2560, the interrupt 0 and interrupt pins are labeled right here, and as you can see, there is a red box near to them that basically shows that these pins are pull up enabled. And once the pins are pull up enabled, what you can do is you have to set the pins on what type of logic the interrupt will be called. So in this code, I have set the both of the pins as the interrupt service routine of both of the pins will be called whenever there is a low logic or a falling edge. This comment right here is actually wrong, which I have to correct. Now both of the interrupts are working on a falling edge, and this interrupt masking register basically turns on the interrupt, and this SEI command turns on the interrupts and actually keeps them on a go, and whenever there is a logic change at the interrupt pins, the interrupt will be called. So normally I have set the code to display the text waiting on my LCD. So this waiting will keep showing on the LCD, but whenever I call an interrupt, or whenever there is a falling edge on the interrupt pins of the microcontroller, interrupt 0 and interrupt 1, and the LCD will show interrupt 0 for the interrupt 0 trigger and interrupt 1 for the interrupt 1 trigger. So this code, after showing the text, it will stay for about 500 milliseconds. Let's change that to about 1 second, so it is more visible. When any interrupt will be called, this text will show for about 1000 seconds, and after that the program will return to its original position, which will be showing the waiting text on the LCD. So let me show you how the simulation is actually working. And right here, this is my LCD, which is connected to the port B and port C of the microcontroller, and it is right now showing the normal text waiting, which means this is the actual function it has to perform. But whenever I will call the interrupt like this, it will show interrupt 0, and whenever I press the other button, which is connected to the interrupt 1 pin, it will show interrupt 1. This is interrupt 0 and this is interrupt 1. So this was the code about interrupts, and this concludes our lab of interrupts.
अब ये मेरा LCD के ऊपर कोड, इसके ऊपर अब यहाँ से आप देखें वेटिंग लिखा हुआ है. अब मैं अगर इंटरप्ट को इनेबल करता हूँ, तो इंटरप्ट 1 इनेबल 500 मिली सेकेंड के लिए और इंटरप्ट 2 इनेबल 500 मिली सेकेंड के लिए. तो ये सर बेसिकली इंटरप्ट्स का कोड था सारा.